Welcome back, everybody, to another Matt and Maddie kind of breaking down some quarterback play. And we got the expert in here. We got Matt Cassel with us to talk us through a couple plays from the Chiefs' victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. Don't want to mess that one up again. So, Matt, here we go on this first play. We have Travis Kelce comes across in motion, and then we get mirrored routes on both sides of the formation. So kind of walk us through just your first thoughts when you're seeing this play. What kind of coverage are we getting out of the Chargers once we see that motion across the formation?
Okay, so basically when they're starting out in this 2-by-2 formation, it's what we talked about before. It's called quarter, half, right? It's playing cover 4 to the to the Kelce side, and then they're playing a cloud corner to the opposite side, right? But they don't make an adjustment here. They don't. Sometimes teams will have defenses will have adjustment calls based on going from a 2-by-2 to a 3-by-1, but they don't. So instead they flip that over, right? They're clouding the 3-by-1 side here, and they're playing cover 4 on the backside. Now, as you start to run this route and you start to see what goes, they're trying to give you a double mug look, but look, in that case, they're just jabbing out and they're going to get into their zone drops, right? So when you're clouded up top, you've got what we call is mirrored routes. It's a bench route, right? And what it is this guy, the guys on the outside are running up to 16, going to 18 out to the sideline, and then you've got somebody underneath them. So it's really a high-low read. And then you've got the point guy running down the middle of the field. He's an option, more so usually versus a true split safety look, because as you can see, and you let this thing roll right here, that weak safety kind of holds into that pocket. So now Patrick likes the front side, so he's just working high to low in this circumstance. And this is just a tremendous throw because, as you can see, what we always talk about at the quarterback position when you're trying to throw a bench route against a cloud corner is you have to see the depth and the width of that cornerback, right? And he does have some depth and he's got a little bit of width here, but Patrick has enough confidence in his own arm that he just lets this thing fly, and he makes a perfect throw right over the head of the cornerback, and that's exactly how you want to deliver that ball. And if he doesn't like it, then he gets down to Kelce right now for a second read, and he's a catch and run.
No, absolutely. And this is one of the things that I think we kind of saw this year for the Chiefs is when they run these kind of middle read routes, I think a lot of times they're going to be called deep overs, but the read route down the middle of the field, that backside safety kind of playing that quarters coverage is holding that away. But I think some people are going to see this and wonder if there's a chance that they should try to take this deep shot towards the end zone to our guy running vertically down the middle of the field, or why you wouldn't be doing that in this situation.
It's a possibility. Like I said, he's what we call a big alert, right? You see him, you like the coverage, you see split safety, or that weak safety hesitates and he doesn't get any depth whatsoever, then you can throw it over the top of him right now. Now, I'd like to have this guy at the point, keep it down the middle of the field rather than get over the top of that guy so much, because you've created that separation where you can deliver that ball away from that safety. But in this particular coverage too, that weak safety usually will now get eyes on number 3 coming across and give help to that guy. So I don't blame Patrick right here at all for not getting taking his big alert, as we like to say, and just getting right into his read and what he's doing with the high-low.
And so now I'm going to actually flip it on you and ask you a little bit of a defensive-minded question. If on the defense in this scenario, when they're getting this route combination that almost plays out similar to a smash, should the corner be taking away this bench route, or is it going to be up to that kind of slot defender there that's also playing a deep hook to go undercut it and realize that he doesn't have anybody else entering his zone? Like, what would the defense do to take this away? Is it going to be on the corner or kind of the slot defender up there at the top of the screen?
It's really not the slot defender's responsibility at all, because he's in a zone drop, right? He's in that hook curl area, so to speak. And so he's getting into space with eyes on the quarterback. Now the corner has more of the job of saying, okay, he's going vertical right now, I need to get depth. So he can hold him off, or if that safety wants to collapse on him, he can. But again, he can't get beat deep, right? So if they double move that safety and he's aggressive, they double move him and run the bench pump, then he's dead in the water. So usually the safety will have a lot of depth, and it's the corner's responsibility to continue to give depth, because again, he doesn't want to get that ball thrown over his head like he does here. Rather, he can rally to Kelce if he throws the check down in the flat. You know what I'm saying? So it's more on the corner than it is anybody else to hold off that guy from Patrick Mahomes throwing that bench route.
No, absolutely understand. Great throw, and we get it. I just think that a lot of people are going to see that and wonder how come that kind of nickel defender's not doing anything. And I think you explained it perfectly. That's not where his kind of eyes are supposed to be. That's not his drop spot. So, and it's a great throw. I mean, there's not a lot of room there for this ball to get in. That's a great throw. So we're going to move on from this corner route, though. This is this great Patrick Mahomes play. Let's go to another one. We're going to move down into the red zone now, and we're going to get the Chiefs coming out of kind of a max protect, play action, two-man route here across middle, and we actually get Patrick Mahomes working off what looks like his first read and then finding Kelsey late coming across the field here.
Right. This is just a full max protection. They're selling hardcore run up front. You can tell by the offensive line and also the ball action in the backfield here. Patrick, now this is very difficult on Patrick because he has to turn his back to the defense and then get his eyes. He has to do a full 360 to get his eyes back around to see what's going on. Now, when you look at it, it's a man concept here, right? And so they're kind of have a double here on Kelsey if you look at it because the slot defender is playing with outside leverage. So he's trying to get everything to go into the free safety in the middle of the field. Now, as Kelsey starts to run that crossing route, right, that slot defender passes him off to that free safety, and that free safety now has to collect him and crash on that crossing route, and then that slot defender falls back and takes the responsibility of the free safety. So as Patrick comes off the play action here, he gets, and what he's really probably thinking at this point is, I've got Tyreek Hill. It's kind of like a sluggo post here. You see him push back out and then come back in and he's going to throw it up and high in the back of the end zone. But as he falls off, that's what I think creates the hesitation by Patrick Mahomes, and he does a great job of getting his eyes back to Kelsey, who has already outrun the safety, and he's able to deliver a strike.
No, absolutely. And this is something the Chargers are doing a lot throughout the game, not just in the red zone, but they were passing off crossing routes from Travis Kelce, from Tyreek Hill. And so when you get this exchange, you see Patrick Mahomes have the pump fake as he's looking towards Tyreek Hill, and he's able to come back across and hit Travis Kelce. So and I think we asked this a couple weeks ago, but when you come out of a hard play action sell like this, where your back's entirely to the defense, you got to flip around and find where everybody is. What's the first player you're looking for? Are you looking for a safety, or are you looking at a receiver first? Like, what's the first thing you're trying to identify as a quarterback coming off this hard play action sell?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of times when you get under center, you've got to rely a lot on your pre-snap read, right? And so he's looking at the structure of the defense. He sees a single high safety. He sees it's some form of a man concept over there from the defensive side of the ball. Now, when you come off, your eyes are immediately getting into that number one read, right? Which obviously primarily he thinks he's going to be throwing to Tyreek Hill right here. But then you also, as you come off that fake, have to make sure that pre-snap read is the same. I mean, the read that you're making right now is the same as what it was a pre-snap. And as you could tell, as he came off, he's looking for Tyreek Hill. But as they did the drive and replace, right, they switch responsibilities. Now all of a sudden he has to get his eyes back down to Kelsey on the crossing route. And again, it's a simple read, right? It's 1-2. However, if he just comes off the fake and says, I'm throwing that post route hell or high water, well, that creates bad plays, right? But he does a great job of settling back down, pumping it, saying, no, not there. Where's my number 2? And there's where he comes out the back door with Kelsey on the crossing route.
All right, so we've got done talking about the Chargers game, and the Chargers actually did a little bit of something that no team has done to the Chiefs this year. They blitzed a lot. They blitzed about over 20 times in this game, and a lot of it was zone blitzing. And with the Chiefs having the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up next, I figured this was a good time to talk about some zone blitzing because that's what they are known for throughout their tenure. So what we have here is a 3-by-1 look for the Chiefs offense. We got our 3 receivers here on one side, and we got 2 linebackers for the Pittsburgh Steelers or whatever team are going to be mugging our A gaps with 4 down defensive linemen. Now, the thing to remember for the Pittsburgh Steelers, these are 3-4 defensive ends. So, they're a little bit smaller sometimes. Now, TJ Watt particularly isn't used to dropping a ton, but he can. So any one of these 4 players can drop out into coverage. So what I wanted to ask Matt was, as a quarterback, when you get this kind of look and you have all these options of guys that can be coming on a blitz or dropping out into coverage, what's kind of your process to reading this play out from pre-snap to post-snap?
Right, that's a great question. So when you're looking at this defensive structure, and especially they call it double mug in my world, right? And so you've got 2 A-gap defenders. They're threats right now to your protection scheme, right? You've got the Will linebacker, the Mike linebacker walked up. But you also have to look at the fundamentals of what your protection scheme is. In this particular case, you've got a 6-man protection scheme. So what are the rules in a 6-man protection scheme? The offensive line has the 4 down linemen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag or ID the Mike linebacker, which tells that center, hey, look, we've got the 4 down lineman and the Mike linebacker. Okay, so yes, go right there. He's going there, here. here. Now the emphasis now is on the halfback, right? He steps up. His blocking responsibility right now is going to be that will linebacker if he fires, right? So he steps there. Now, for some reason, if he drops out, now he can scan out to that nickel if they bring him. So let's just say, for instance, okay, in this particular look, you've got now the Mike linebacker fires and that nickel comes off the edge, off the F, right? Now the will linebacker the strong safety is gonna rotate down over the F. If you see that, yep, he's gonna rotate down, right? And he's gonna have that spot. The will linebacker is gonna jab out here and get into the middle of the defense here to give you presence. Yes, he's going to go, probably to the right a little bit, but right about there. And then that backside defensive end is also going to go because, again, yes, they're exchanging some responsibilities here. So now you've got 3 defenders underneath with an overload pressure, right? So you're accounting in space for people, but at the same time, they're trying to really wreak havoc on your protection scheme because it's really hard for that halfback to scan all the way out to the nickel, but you potentially can pick this up. Where it gets very difficult is when those teams like the Mike Zimmers of the world, they'll bring the weak safety down on the line of scrimmage prior to the pre-snap, right? So now you've got a balanced look on both sides, right? So now you have to pick a side. Which side are you going to take care of? Because if you take care of the right side like we just did, well, guess what's going to happen? If they fire that weak safety, you've got to make your X alert to a side adjust issue, right? If you take care of the weak side of the formation, now you've got a side adjust by your F or a hot route, so to speak. If you take care of the weak side of the formation, they fire that weak safety. You say, okay, I'm guessing that they're going to bring it here, and then you've got a point hot over there to the F. So there's so many different variations of how they use double mug and are able to utilize it and attack your protection schemes. At the same time, you have to go back to your fundamentals and your principles of the protection scheme and know where your issues are and make everybody alert around you to, hey, this guy right here, you're always pointing, hey, watch him, your side adjusts off him, or hey, right here, you're off the nickel. So that also it's working in your mind and also telling the receivers, like, we've got to be alert for hots and side adjusts in this particular look.
So, and the big thing there that I'm kind of picking up is that wherever these guys are kind of lined up, whoever's walked down and where they're coming, what you're going to have is a handful of side adjustments from the quarterbacks and the receivers that, depending on who's coming, you're going to have a hot read coming off the snap because you're not going to be able to pick up all the guys. So is that going to be your first read as a quarterback? I mean, that's obviously going to be your first read as a quarterback once the ball's snapped. Is that kind of the first thing you're looking at? Is who's your hot receiver when the ball snapped? What if that is taken away? What if you guys guess wrong? Where do you go next in the play from that point?
Right. So if you're basing it off of your protection scheme, right, and okay, look, you've pointed out to say that F receiver because you think that they're going to bring the weak safety pressure, and we have calls, and I can get into the intricacies of it, but it's probably a little bit much for the common viewer.
Yeah.
But if you point to him, and all of a sudden, look, you're guessing the nickel doesn't come, but you at the snap, look, I'm peeking at the nickel, right? I'm peeking at him and saying, is he coming? And then all of a sudden, when I see that he's not coming, you're just getting right back into your normal progression. Whatever the route combination is, you're getting into your normal progression because you have taken care of that side. You should be protected, and you're trusting that the offensive line and the halfback are going to do their job.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to take away some of what we've drawn on here, and I'm going to have you walk us through just kind of one play that you would kind of like to run, or you would like to see a team, or you like to run even against a team that's going to run a lot of zone blitzes. So I think you would sent me a play here, and you had called it a sail concept, correct?
Right. Why sail?
Why sail?
Why sail at return?
Okay, so we still got most of our stuff on here. All right, so let's just go ahead and start it through. Who's our first read? Okay, so you can walk me through this. Who's kind of the first read that we're looking at on this play? Who are we starting with, and where are we taking them to?
Okay, this is a progression read, and actually the Chiefs love to run this play. So the Z is going to run a post over the top. Yep, he's running a post over the top. The Y is the guy that's running the sail route. So he's going to go vertically into the defense and then bow out toward the sideline. Yes. And then the F, I've got him on a return route. So he's running in, selling that cross. Yes. And then the X on the backside is running an in cut. Right. say you have this double mug look, right? And all of a sudden, say it's the exact same blitz that you just looked at, right? And where you've got the Mike coming, the nickel coming, the will drops out, the strong safety rotates down. Yep. Weak safety goes to the middle of the field. Defensive end drops on the weak side. Defensive end drops, right? Now it's a very challenging play. If that halfback can go out and pick up that nickel back, right? It's very difficult because now you're putting that strong safety in a bind, right? He's out there in space, but you've got a high-low right there. If he wants to collapse on the F right now, well, then you're going to throw that Y in behind him, right? And if for some reason, if he gives a tremendous amount of depth, that F is going to run that return route and you're going to throw it to him. So really it's a 1, Y, 2, which you're kind of evaluating at the same time just based on the player itself. And then you're getting back to the X late on the end cut as number 3. Yep. So it's just a true progression read. It's a simple read, but at the same time, it's very difficult for a defense that wants to come after you in this way. For them, they just don't have enough players in space in order to shut it down.
Well, exactly. That's kind of the trick with zone blitzing is the defense and offense are kind of trying to do the same thing against each other. You're trying to overload one side of the offensive line's protection or the coverage on the back end if you're the offense. So in this scenario, you're getting 3 receivers. They're going to be pit against roughly 2 defenders. And yes, there's a weak safety rotating over the top, but he's not particularly playing a ton in it. So you just have too many receivers over here. And like you said earlier, it's just about figuring out who's coming, where they're going to be, and finding your hot read. So we were talking about earlier, if this nickel ends up not coming, the pressure is likely coming from somewhere else, but then you would just kind of skip out of this and then you'd start working through, would you still read this through 1, 2, 3 over here? If this nickel doesn't come, where would your kind of mind go just on that one scenario? We'll take this last little hypothetical here, but if the nickel's not ends up blitzing, where's the next kind of way you would work at this as a quarterback?
Okay, are you saying that like they bring a weak safety pressure and you guess to take care of that side?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll drop this guy back coming over here. The weak safety's coming in now. Or another linebacker, whoever it is. You're just, this guy is no longer playing deep. We'll put him on the blitz here.
Okay, you put him on the blitz. So then usually at that point, now, look, the Mike linebacker is going to be the guy that jabs out weak, right? And then the defensive end, so they've got enough people in coverage. The defensive end on the strong side, he'll drop out, right? And so you still have a great high-low because that defensive end's in space, right? He's a lesser player in space. If you pick up that weak side safety, again, now you've got a great matchup. If the nickel wants to give depth for any reason because he's in a zone and he's feeling that guy run over the top, now you've got a one-on-one. I mean, you've basically got a one-on-one in space with your F and the defensive end. If that nickel wants to jump that guy right there, then you've got the Y on a defensive end running in space, which is a great matchup as well. So it's kind of a universal play that's good versus almost every single coverage.
Awesome. No, thank you. And yes, guys, Chiefs fans, I'm telling you, keep your eyes out. I'm not saying you're going to see this exact concept, although you might, like Matt said, the Chiefs do love running this very similar concept, but you're going to see the Steelers blitz some. And so when you start seeing these overload looks coming, these linebackers mugging up, just kind of look at what the Chiefs are doing from their protection, where the Chiefs are essentially going to be flooding specific zones behind that blitz, because that's where you have a ton of success attacking. Thank you guys, as always, joining Matt. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving me all your time and explaining football to me and everybody else that wants to listen.
Absolutely. Had a blast doing it. Thank you, guys.